There's a six-figure remote tech opportunity that most people are not even aware exists. And the best part is you don't need a college degree and you don't need experience to get started. You can learn this from your couch in just a matter of weeks, not years. So what is this opportunity? In this video, we are going to talk about exactly what the opportunity is and how you can get a piece of pie for yourself so that if you're looking to break into remote tech, if you're looking to earn six figures as a remote developer, you can learn exactly how. All right, so my name is Jake. I'm an ex-Amazon engineer, and in this video, we're going to talk about what is front-end development, why is it such a great opportunity, and how can you actually go about learning front-end development so that you can start earning six figures from home. All right, so here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the what. So what is the opportunity? So what is the opportunity? All right, and then we're going to talk about why. Like, why is this such a great opportunity? Why is this even a thing? Like, why is this valuable and why are people paying so much, right? So, um, let's go here. So why? And then we're going to talk about how, all right? So at a high level, if you wanted to pursue something like this, like how would you even get started? Where does somebody even go to learn this type of thing, all right? So how, okay? All right, so let's zoom out here and let's go ahead and erase this stuff. All right, first let's talk about the what, all right? And so you've probably heard of coding before, but what you may not have heard about before is something called front-end development, all right? So front-end development. And what is front-end development, you may ask? This is a subset of coding, all right? It is a subset of coding, and really, it's a subset of web development, okay? It's a subset of web development, all right? And front-end development really just comes down to building user interactions, building user experiences that everybody goes and interacts with. So for example, if you go to checkout on Amazon.com, right, and you're going through the cart, you're going through the checkout flow, and you see all the colors, the buttons, the upsells, things like that, everything that you see on the screen, somebody somewhere had to actually build that, right? And the person that built that is the front-end developer. If you log into the bank, your bank on your phone, if you log into your bank on your computer, somebody somewhere had to build the UI. They had to build the buttons. They had to build the login flow, you name it. The people that build those are front-end developers. And likewise, if you go to Netflix and you're watching your favorite movie or watching your favorite show, somebody had to build that experience that is in front of them, right? And have you ever wondered who actually built those, right? It's, software engineers, but ultimately it is a small subset of people that work on the front end, that work on the UI, that people like yourselves, like me, come into contact with every single day. And so what's cool about front-end development is your work is seen by millions. It's on front display for everybody to see. And the reality is, it's like, you got to think, how many businesses are there in the United States, all right? In the United States alone, it's like there's millions and millions and millions of businesses, right? At least 1 million, probably north of like 5, 10, 20 million businesses in the United States, all right? And for the vast majority of businesses, now not every business needs a website, but for the vast majority of businesses, they need a website, right? Because they need a way to demonstrate value to their customers. They need a way to serve their customers. They need a way to tell their customers about what they do. All right. And so if you can think about all the millions of websites out there that businesses need, somebody's got to build all those, right? And it's not like there's 50 million front-end developers in the United States, right? And so that is the opportunity for you. That is the opportunity for me. All right. So front-end development, this is UI, this is UX, coding, all right? And so by and large, front-end developers are writing code, but they're primarily writing code that is seen, right? And so, when I first got into coding, everything was kind of like, I didn't know how it all fit together, right? You write code and you talk about backends and databases and it's stuff that's just not visible to users and people that will actually use your site. I was always much, much more interested in what will people see? People see when they visit a website, right? When they go to your site, right? And so that's why front-end development was always super interesting to me, was that everything you build is directly on display when people come into contact with your website, right? And so if, your friends, your family, whoever else is asking about what you do for work, you can just very easily point to like, hey, look, I built that website or I built that checkout flow or I touched that part of Amazon that, millions and millions of people come into contact with. I think that's pretty cool, right? And that's always been super interesting to me. And that kind of enjoyment has never really faded, all right? But that at a high level is what front-end development is, right? And there's a bunch of people in the United States that are front-end developers and worldwide too. But the reality is a lot of these companies, they struggle to find good, competent front-end developers. They struggle to find good, competent engineers, right? A million people want to call themselves engineers, but it's very hard to find good and talented and skilled people that want to do this job. And the reason that's important for you is wherever there is a lack of supply and an overwhelming amount of demands, well, what does that mean for you? the salaries are going to be nice. And not only are the salaries going to be nice, there is an abundance of opportunities in the United States that are completely remote, right? And so if flexibility is a thing that you value, if not commuting is a thing that you value, maybe spending more time with family, getting to travel, spending time with your aging parents, you name it, um, these are absolutely things that you can have as a front-end developer, right? And so let me go ahead and erase this here. Excuse me. Okay. There we go. All right. And so let's talk about why, right? So why front-end development, all right? So the first thing I want to call out is you can absolutely earn six figures, and you can absolutely earn six figures very soon after getting started. My very first role, working as a front-end developer, I was earning north of $100,000. Okay, and that's granted that was after I had done a few internships. I probably had a little less than a year of experience, but I hadn't really worked full time, minus being an intern, right? And so your earning capability, you can earn, north of. Um, oops, let's just go back there. You can go. You can earn more than $100,000 per year. All right, you can earn more than $100,000 per year. And not only that, right? Not only that, your salaries can get up to 200, 300, 400, 500 plus at some of the top firms in the company. So you have huge salary growth potential. Okay. And another thing I want to call out is, not every single job in the world is remote, but the reality is there is an abundance of roles that are remote. Many roles are remote. Okay. And what that means for you is, if you want to wake up from a beach in Thailand, if you want to go live in Mexico, if you want to go spend time in Portugal or Spain or Norway or anywhere else, while you work and while you're earning money without having to ask your boss for time off, without having to, do the whole runaround where somebody's over your head and constantly looking over your shoulder, you can absolutely do that, right? And so, what that means for you is you can travel, because not only are you going to have the money to travel, but also you have the flexibility of working from anywhere, okay? And so you can travel, you just have more flexibility, right? If you're stuck in a commute right now, and maybe you commute 30 minutes a day, an hour a day, 1 hour each way per day. I know I've talked to people that have just crazy commute times. Think about how many hours over the course of a week, of a month, over a year, let alone an entire career, right? If you work for 40 years, how many hours are you just losing to a commute, right? You don't gain anything from a commute. You're just wasting time and money on something like gas. Whereas, if you work a career like this, think about how much more life you could live, right? If you get those hours back in the day, let alone all the gas money and all the associated spend that comes with like being in a commute. Okay. And the thing that's, cannot be understated is just the freedom of not being in office or like having somebody look over your shoulder, the freedom of not, feeling like you're trapped in a cubicle and you're trapped at one location. It's like you have freedom in a couple realms. In that one, you get to kind of choose where you live, and then two, you're going to be skilled enough and in demand enough that you can kind of choose where you work as well. All right. Now, granted, the market's competitive, right? There's no doubt about it. Everybody wants to earn six figures, but the reality is, if you build the skill sets and you put yourself out there and put a concerted effort towards actually pursuing something like this, it's like the world's going to be your oyster. Whenever you break in, you get your first role, you start getting some experience under your belt, the tides start to shift, right? And it goes from you reaching out to recruiters, trying to make a name for yourself, to kind of the opposite, right? If you're good at what you do and you start to earn the respect of your peers, start to earn the respect of the people you work with, well, recruiters are going to notice that, and recruiters are going to be after you, right? You're going to have recruiters in your inbox offering you a job for 150K, 200K, 250K, you name it. And then at that point, it's just kind of up to you. How much do you want to work, right? How aggressive do you want to be in your career? How much money are you really trying to make? Okay. And so many other roles are remote. And so the next thing I'll add is that you can learn this from home. Okay. You can learn this from home. There are tons of free resources out there on the internet. If you want to learn front-end development, you name it, right? There's an abundance of information out there. You can just go looking it up. Now, if you'd want my personal help actually teaching you how to learn something like this, I'll include a link down below that links to a free training where, you can learn a little bit more about front-end development and see, if you'd want my help learning something like this, where I hold your hands and get you the result you're after, which is, pursuing a six-figure job, pursuing a six-figure remote career. I can absolutely help you get there, right? So click the link below if that is you, if you are interested in something like that, all right? But you can learn this from anywhere. You can learn this from home, from your couch. You don't need a degree. You don't need a degree. Okay. And so, in the old days, in the 2000s, the 1900s, the 2010s even, college degrees, they meant a lot, right? And they do still mean something, but that is changing very quickly. All right. As we enter the digital age, as we continue to enter the AI age, AI is making it such that, younger people can learn these skills and pursue these careers without needing to go to 4 years of a traditional school. All right. you can learn these skills from home, and very quickly recruiters are also learning that college degrees, they just aren't as necessary anymore, right? You can't skip the hard work, you can't skip actually being competent in learning the skills, but paying $200,000 for a piece of paper might not necessarily be the way anymore. And the evidence for that is like you can hear Elon Musk and other CEOs talking about they don't even check for a college degree anymore. All right, and so that's obviously going to be dependent employer to employer and wherever you're at. Some people care more than others, but in 10, 20, 30 years from now, that's going to be a thing of the past. Okay, and so you can pick up these skills from home. And so ultimately, this merit matters. All right. And that's part of the reason I love this career. All right. Most careers, they're very political in that, it's whoever's going to kiss the ass of the boss the most and whatever else. And, in some ways that's also true, right? You can't avoid human nature, but in something like front-end development and something like coding, it's a lot more meritocratic, which means you're either good at what you do or you aren't, right? And that can be scary for some, but, for me, that was always exciting. And the reason that's exciting is because you see the direct output of, whatever work you put in or whatever effort you put in. If you're willing to work hard and make a name for yourself, it's like you will be rewarded in spades. Okay, and so for those reasons, that's why I think front end development is one of the best opportunities for somebody to learn to break into coding. And I'll add one more thing. This is the easiest path to learn to code. Okay, it's the easiest path to learn to code. It's much easier than learning backend development, where you have to not only learn how to code, but also learn a bunch of different paradigms, databases, um, database schemas, data models. You got to learn authentication. You got to learn APIs. You got to learn this. You got to learn that. There's a lot of stuff to unpack there. And eventually, as you work through your career, you're going to want to learn those things anyways. But for just breaking into tech and getting your first job, it's not like you need to memorize the entire world, right? You're just trying to learn enough so that you can break in and get experience so that you can start learning these things on the job as well. And so the last thing I'll add here is that front end development is evergreen, all right? It's not going anywhere. There's always going to be websites. Businesses need websites. Businesses need people to actually build these websites. And so, as a front end developer, you're going to be in demand because somebody somewhere has to actually build these things, right? And AI is great up until a point, all right? AI is great to get you to build MVPs and to build like proof of concepts, but who's going to be there to fix it when stuff goes wrong, when you don't know how to solve a problem, when the site goes down at midnight and you have no idea what to do and you're bleeding thousands and thousands, if not millions of dollars on your business, right? Somebody somewhere needs those people that have that knowledge of actually uh, building competent solutions to problems, right? And so front-end development is not going anywhere. It's easy to learn, huge earning potential. You can work remote. It's just got a slew of different benefits going for it, all right? And so for all those reasons, that's why I think front-end development is such a great opportunity. And I can speak for myself. It's like I've done this professionally for several years now, and I still enjoy it. I still love coding. And I've had pretty much all the freedom I could have ever asked for. And also, it's like money has never been an issue for me since I've been doing this, right? Earned more than I'd ever need, and enjoyed what I did. And not many people can actually say that. And so, for those reasons, it's like if you are looking to change your life and you're like, I don't know if I should learn this, if I should learn cybersecurity, if I should learn design or something else. If you ever had any inclination towards coding whatsoever and you're looking for a place to get started, like this is the place to get started. And I'll start talking about it's like, all right, if you were to take your first step today, what are you actually going to learn? What do you actually need to learn so that you can go and do this? All right. And so let's go ahead and get rid of all this stuff here and let's talk about um, how are you actually going to learn this? Okay. How are you actually going to learn this and how are you actually going to do this? And so let's talk about how you're actually going to do this, right? And so in my mind, I see kind of three tracks that you have to pass to make your life as easy as possible, right? And so A is going to be you've got to learn the skills, all right? There's no way around it. Ultimately you're going to have the skills to not only pass an interview but to do the job, okay? And so B here, this is going to be getting experience, um, experience, proof, and maybe confidence, competence, you name it. But really what we're looking to do here is to build proof such that recruiters see you as somebody who's trustable, that if they put their neck on the line to hire you, that you're not going to be a disaster for the company and waste a bunch of company money. Okay. And then the third thing here that we're going to need to do is you're going to need to get the interview skills needed to pass a technical interview, right? So these are kind of the three steps right here that you're going to need to do, all right? And so what does skills break down into? As a front-end developer, you really have a few main core skills, right? And in terms of languages you need to learn, there's really only a few, right? So you need to learn HTML, you need to learn CSS, you need to learn JavaScript, and then probably some kind of front-end framework, like for example, React. Okay. And so React is kind of it's a library, it's a JavaScript library that's used to build modern UIs, build modern web experiences. All right. So React, something else like maybe Next.js, you name it. But if you've never written a line of code before, don't even worry about all that. What's more important is that you write your first line of HTML, you write your first line of CSS, write your first line of JavaScript, and you start to build the fundamental. All right. So these are the fundamental languages. That you're going to need. Now, something else I might layer in is you're going to need some basic knowledge of Git, which is, version control. And then, you're going to want to know how to work with APIs and there's a couple other skills in there that you're going to have to pick up. But at a high level, these are the basic skills. All right. These are the basic skills. And if you're looking for a, front-end roadmap in specific, there's a website called roadmap.sh. It's either roadmap or roadmaps.sh. You can go there and it'll tell you step by step, basically what you need to learn to become a competent front-end developer, okay? And their roadmap is a little more in-depth than you'll probably need, because in my opinion, it's a lot more streamlined than that, but they want to make sure that, you're a well-rounded developer. And again, I'll say, if this is something that you're seriously considering and you're ready to get started, go ahead and click the link down below. I've got the free training for you, and we can hit the ground running, okay? But that being said, there are a bunch of free resources out there that you can absolutely take a look at, should you want to start coding today, okay? Now, experience and proof. This is kind of a chicken and the egg problem, right? Because when you first get started and you start building your own projects and you start writing your own code, eventually, when you go to get hired, you're going to run into this issue of how do I prove to a recruiter? How do I prove to other engineers that I'm competent, even though I don't have any experience, right? How am I going to get experience if I don't already have it in the first place when everybody's already asking for experience, okay? And so, you really only have a couple options here, right? You only have a couple options here, right? It's to build projects / portfolio, and this is like what the 99% of people in the world do, okay? But I prefer to do things a different way. Like I don't like following the masses. I'd rather do something different and see if I can get better results, right? And so for you, right, you can absolutely take this route, and it's worthwhile to know that you can build your own projects. But you know, what's even better is to see if you can go and land an internship, right? See if you can do work for somebody. See if you can make it a no-brainer offer for them where they don't have to put any risk into you to get that work experience, right? If you're willing to sacrifice pay for 6, 12, 18 weeks to actually get experience to your name. I mean, this is a skill. This is a job that can pay off for the rest of your life. Okay, this can pay off for the rest of your life. And so you've got to fight. You've got to scrap for that first initial experience, right? And so that this internship, this is part of why I started making this content and I started filming this content is because this was a huge issue, when I was first learning. And I studied computer science in school. Like I tried super, super hard. And even still, landing my first internship, it was difficult, right? It was very difficult. And it wasn't until I had some experience under my belt that the tides really started to turn and I had way more demand than I was able to even respond to recruiters, right? And so that's why in the program that I put together, it's like you're going to have a guaranteed internship. And the reason you're going to have a guaranteed internship is you're going to walk away with real experience that, you're going to have on your resume so that when you start applying to other firms, other companies, they're going to see that, hey, you've already had experience as a front-end developer. You've already worked professionally, seen how the sausage is made, and you're much less risky of a hire. So that's something you gotta realize. Like when you're talking to recruiters, two things are at play. All right. Two things are at play. So two things here. A, the recruiter. So you got to look through the lens of the recruiter, and then you got to look through the lens of the business owner. All right. So the recruiter doesn't have the same financial upside that a business owner has. They don't have the same risk. All right. And so the recruiter doesn't want to mess up and make a bad hire and then get fired. All right. And so what they're scared of is making a bad hire. All right. And so the reason that matters for you is whenever you're applying to that first job, whenever you're applying to that first role, it's like, you have to frame your conversation in such a way that you got to frame yourself in such a way that the recruiter is completely trusting of you and they think that you will not cause issues or you'll be a great hire, right? If that's shown through your work ethic, if that's shown through proof of skills, like somehow you got to find a way to get that recruiter to trust you so that they feel like you will not be a bad hire. There's a very low probability that they'll get fired for, making a bad hire on you. And then the second person you've got to consider is the business owner, the entrepreneur, the people that are actually making money from the business, right? And not just on salary, is they don't want to make a bad hire on you, sure, but they also care about how much money you can make them. All right. And so when you're having conversations with C-suite, when you're having conversations with individuals who are more tied directly to the business's performance, they care about how, if they spend $100,000 per year on hiring you, how are you going to generate them another 300,000 per year, another 500,000 per year? Okay. And so 99% of employees never think like that. But the reality is you're only paid as much as you are valuable to the business. All right. Six-figure salaries don't come from nowhere. Businesses are not charities. The reason these jobs pay so much is because you can be immensely valuable to the correct company. All right. And so in, along those lines, it's like you have to communicate the ROI that you can deliver to a business, right? And, if you aren't really sure what that would look like in practice, well, you can always, you can ask AI, you can ask ChatGPT, like how can developers deliver ROI to a business? Well, like in my case, for example, at a previous gig, I worked on optimizing conversion rate, right? For a site that does millions of dollars in sales, if I can make changes to the website that improves conversion rate by 1%, it's like it could have overnight an immediate impact of hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, okay? Just by making one change. And that's the power that you can have when you are a software engineer, when you are a front-end developer, all right? And then the last thing that you're going to have to dial in. So experience and proof. These skills are what's going to help you get experience and proof. And then once you have experience and proof, they're going to get you interviews. But how do you actually pass the interviews, right? The last step, how do you pass the interviews and actually get the job? So you've got to have two things, right? You've got to have the soft skills, and then you've got to have the technical interview skills. Okay. And for technical interviews, right? Everybody talks about leak code. There's even better resources like neat code that kind of boils down data structures and algorithms, right? This is all stuff that I learned in college that's quite frankly, in hindsight, I could have learned in a matter of weeks instead of 4 years, but hindsight's 2020, right? But you have the luxury of knowing, of getting this information from me, somebody that's actually been there and done that, how you can kind of skip the line and learn this yourself, right? And so, you're going to be grinding neat code and leak code, and the reason for this is you've got to be pretty dialed on data structures and algorithms, okay? And I just realized that the ROI is covered up on my face over here, but I typed ROI, or I drew ROI for the business owner. So you're going to learn data structures and algorithms. Again, it's not some nebulous thing. Like there is a step-by-step path to getting ready for technical interviews, right? And at some point, it's literally just, are you doing the work or not? Are you prepared or not? And that's how you know you're ready. And then the soft skills, this is how you market yourself. This is how you present yourself to potential employers, to recruiters, to hiring managers, to other engineers. So this is stuff like resume. This is stuff like your LinkedIn. This is stuff like conversation, your manners. Are you grateful when people give you opportunities? Like just little basic stuff that a lot of people overlook. Conversation. What else? Like, are you reaching out to decision makers? Okay. So I'll give a little bit of a anecdote here in that early on in my career, I strictly applied online. I wasn't shaking hands. Quite frankly, I was pretty introverted and I didn't want to talk to people and I just kind of wanted to hold up and code. All right. And if you're watching this video, odds are you might be the same. You might relate with that. And that's fine. That'll get you up to a certain point in your life. Okay. As it did for me. Where things started to change for the better is when I started putting myself out there more, when I started to talk to more people, when I started shaking more hands, right? Meeting people, right? They say what your net worth is your network or something like that, some corny line, but like it's pretty true, okay? Because the first big break I had, the first big opportunity I had was literally off a random cold DM where I wasn't even asking for a job. It was just tangentially related. I reached out to a CEO of a company, ended up giving me a great opportunity that really jump-started my career, okay? And so, for you, getting that first job, you never know where it's going to come from. You never know the person that's going to give you that first opportunity, right? And so it's in your best interest to be speaking with those people all the time, right? Life's just a game of expected values. You never know what's going to happen if you talk to the right person, okay? But, if you strictly stay behind a screen and you're only applying online, sending your resume a bunch of places, right? You're going to be competing against the 99%, right? And so as somebody who's new to the industry, you're going to get smoked. That's the reality. You're probably just going to get smoked. And so you got to set yourself apart in some way, right? It's not an insurmountable task because everybody that's in the industry was a beginner at some point, all right? But in the beginning, you've got to set yourself apart. You've got to compete in a puddle as opposed to a vicious ocean, right? And the vicious ocean in this industry, it's like applying online on LinkedIn because it's so easy. That's what everybody does. Why would you want to compete with thousands of other people when you could just go and reach out to a CEO directly or go and reach out to a CTO directly, have a conversation with them, and if they like you, they might just give you an opportunity, okay? As long as you can prove you're good at what you do, right? And so that's the how of how you can pursue something like this if you're interested, right? So you've got to learn the skills, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, you name it. There's a roadmap on roadmap.sh if you're curious. And then you got to get the experience and proof. This is building projects. This is getting some basic work experience under your belt, even if it's not full-time yet. And the reason this is valuable is because it's going to enable you to land more full-time interviews, right? It's going to enable you to land interviews that ultimately can lead to a full-time role where you completely change your life, right? And you'll never look back from there, all right? And so once you're consistently getting those interviews, then it's just time to work on those interview skills and make sure that you can be prepared and crush an interview. Okay. And so um, that's pretty much it. You got to work on your soft skills. You got to work on your technical skills, make sure you're up to date there. But all this is exactly how you can take advantage of this amazing front-end development opportunity, how you can start earning six figures from home, how you can start, working remotely, traveling the world, spending more time with your parents, your friends, your family, you name it. And this is it. This is pretty much the exact path that I followed. And, at this point in my career, it's served me over 10 times 50x fold. And so, if you're teetering on the fence, take action today. Go write your first line of code. And if you want my personal help figuring out something like this in a step-by-step way, and you literally just want the roadmap in your hands, and you want me holding your hand to the finish line, click the link below down in the description, and we'll discuss if that's right for you. But otherwise, I appreciate you watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.